Hey everyone, Egman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the 128 player double box tournament that I hosted last night for the One Piece card game. It was for OP06 with OP06, and we have this top 16 that we see here today. And a couple things before we get started. First, thank you all for showing up to these events. They've been really good. I'm happy that they've been so successful, and I'm going to keep doing them in the future, so make sure to watch out on my Discord and my socials for when the next one is. And then also big shoutouts to both our judge Niko as well as Risu for helping this out, and also Brian from Stage Zero for being my co-commentator. If you guys want to see the matches that happened for this, it's linked in the description. It's on YouTube and Twitch for members and subscribers respectively, and it will be re-uploaded by the end of the week for anyone who wants to watch these as well. So should be a really good time. I think the matches were pretty close, and we had a good amount of variety in the beginning, which is really cool. So we're going to jump on into it for this one though. And so again, this is a top 16 breakdown. We had 128 players and 7 rounds of Swiss best of 1, and our leaders were 3 copies of Sakazuki, 3 Katakuri, 2 Moria with one of them winning the event, 2 Yamato, 2 Reiju, 2 Perona, 1 Zoro, and 1 copy of Star Deck 10 Law. So pretty diverse for what it is. I don't know, like if this is the diversity that we have for the remainder of OP06, I think I'd be pretty happy. I think there are more decks viable than in this meta than OP05, but I do know that, man, Sakazuki, Moria, and Katakuri are definitely the big 3 from this set, with a couple, sneaking in on 4th and 5th that are pretty good as well. So, and also looking at like the ratio for the top 16 and breakdown, like these 3 taking about 50% of the meta, but also 50% of the top 16, I think is pretty healthy. We did have a good amount of Reiju. I think it's like an above average of Perona, which some of them did convert. Some Yamato, some Law, some Manel, and from there. So yeah, the only thing that I say that we are probably missing is a Nell, and we didn't see it in either this breakdown or the PPG 256 player tournament from this past weekend. So I think that's pretty interesting. And then also, I know like Red Purple Law, a lot of people have been talking about that and saying that this deck I think is very viable. It did get 1 stop into this one, which we're going to go into depth when we go over it. But yeah, I do think it's very interesting. So I also know that no Nell's got 5-2, but we did find a couple of unique lists that did. So we're going to go over those as well. Anyways, let's go over our top placing list for each one of these leaders. Starting off with our first one, which is Ernesto's, our Awakened TCG's Gecko Moria. And this deck's been pretty strong. I think it's probably one of my favorite leaders from this new set. It's kind of like the mono black version of Sakazuki in a lot of ways. You have a lot of cards for removal, which is very strong. The best one I think is like Absalom, since you can play it off our leader effect and get this off for you can keep recycling this card very easily without any other card involvement. You just have to discard a card for it. But being able to play a 4/5 that gets rid of a 2 or less, and then with the amount of cost reduction that we have in this deck, Ice Age, Great Eruption, Hina, which we did see this pretty often in the tournament, where at 6 Dawn you can play Hina for 3, and then you can use Gecko Moria leader effect when attacking to play out the Absalom, and you get pretty much out of anything that they played the previous turn, which is pretty strong. So I think just hard playing Hina in those scenarios paid off very well. And then we just kind of have the generic good cards that we have. Sindri, it's great for filling up our trash. Brand new, even if it misses, just putting 3 cards in trash usually means that the cards you miss are the cards you want in there anyways. Helmeppo's been more popular as it's kind of like an additional copy of like Suru, a better copy of Suru off of the 8-drop Gecko Moria. And then we also run the Sabo as well as a like Sabo, like being able to play at like 9 Dawn, a Kuzan, and a Sabo, it's devastating. That hits a lot of decks, and I think that's very strong. So a very solid list, and congratulations to Ernesto for their finish there. And make sure to check them out on Awaken TCG on YouTube. I'm going to link it in the description too. They're going to have way more insight than I do, and I think it's a really good build. So there we go. Next up, we have Hao's version of Sakazuki, and Sakazuki is still on quite a tear into this meta. We do have a good amount of new cards, and just the old cards that we're running were great already. That includes the Tashigi, which is able to find cards not named Tashigi, which is why we've been playing Virgo instead of Tashigi 3-drop as additional copies of our 2K, just to have more targets to hit off that. And then just kind of like the same things we're talking about, like Gecko Moria with either like Helmeppo is very strong, or just even like Rob Lucci's like the OG for that. So that's been good for the deck too. Borsalino, Kuzan, one Sabo, one copy of the 7-drop, which I know that this one's a little bit harder to justify right now since we do have to play such a top end of the Gecko Moria, but it's still great for removing cards, especially like Kiko Nojo without getting their effect. But we already do have like Hound Blaze and also Ama to prevent that, since these are putting at the bottom of the deck, which gets around on KO effects. And then our good friends Great Eruption and Ice Age. So Sakazuki, we knew what that looked like at the end of OP05. We had a couple new substitutions in, so but nothing too crazy. But I think it's a really strong build, and it's going to be doing like builds like this are going to be pretty popular for the next couple months. So not much more to say. Congratulations to How for their finish with Sakazuki. Next up, we have Charlotte Katakuri, and I've been watching Katakuri do well for the last almost year, and this is the build here from Jose, who had a really close match in the finals against Ernesto. But this build, I think Yellow has finally got enough kind of cards with trigger in that like it is now more of a boogeyman of the format, right? It used to be something where like 30% of the field would play Katakuri, but like 1 or 2 would get into a top 16. So it was always underrepresented in a top cut scenario. And just kind of, I think there's just some power issues or just consistency issues. But we've got so many good cards right now for Yellow that it's in a really good spot. So obviously the good cards like Kiko Nojo is such a dumb card. I'd say like it's you play it for free, even if you just play it outright. It's a 4-drop 6K that if they KO it, that you just get to your big bomb a little bit easier. We have a Gradatsu, we have Satori. We're not playing any 8-drop of Katakuri anymore, which I think is super fine. Being able to use just your 7-drop and your Linlin are fantastic. This card on curve is such a good card. Like it's fantastic. Like later game when your opponent has like 0 life anyways, it can sometimes be hard to justify to play it. But man, if you're at 7 Dawn and you play this card, you're in a really good spot. Even 8 Dawn, it's one of the best cards to play on curve in this card game still. You already have opinions on Onami, and we also the kind of thing we're changing is that we're not playing Shirahoshi to get some cycles, so we're not digging as deep, but we are playing just more cards that just find cards. And just like we're running a little bit less bricks in deck as well. Yellow also finally got their copy of a 0-cost event, so being able to use this. And also, like, Katakuri can put this to their last card in life so easy. Like, there are just so many ways that you can find, I mean, just one, you just use your leader ability if you find it, but being able to do that, you're the one who should disappear, 200 million volts, Amaru, being able to play Beige and Sanji, like there's just so many cards that could exist at the top card of your life at any moment that if it does, you put it to the bottom, and now you kind of have a get out of jail free card, which is strong in a deck like this. So I think Katakuri's the consistency and just even just the amount of cards that do functionally the same thing have just made it just super consistent, and it's more obnoxious than ever. I think it's in a good spot. So this is the build here for Jose. Congratulations for their finish there. Next up, we have Yamato, and this is Adrian's build. And real quick, shouts to Adrian for he comes to almost every one of these events, so I really do appreciate it. And he tops a good amount of them too. So just big shouts for him, just being a continued supporter for these guys. But he's playing Yamato, which is probably my most indecisive leader for this set. I really want to like this leader, and it does get some like really great effects, but sometimes it's kind of clunky, sometimes it's a little bit tricky to work with. This is a build that I played very similar to a couple days ago, just using the idea that you can be more aggressive. We do have like the Dracula Mihawk from the starter deck. This is something that lets you play a 4 or less flash type character essentially from your hand. So the cards that can be hit by that real quick are like the Charlotte Cracker, the Ohm, or the Kiko Nojo. So you could use Mihawk to play Ohm, and then you can use Ohm to play Holy. So for 3 Dawn, you're able to play 3 bodies, which add up to 10 costs. So that can be pretty good, especially if Ohm like searches and draws the Holy. Like you don't really miss out on anything. And my biggest weakness with Yamato more of the time is that it's actually kind of tricky to set it up where you have cards to use the activate main for to actually get some value for. Like the double attack is good, don't get me wrong, but either like you don't like play cards or you don't have cards on the board that let you use the Dawn 2. So being able to use that, I think, is helping you guarantee that you have that, I think, is good. We also have like the Hiyori, which is slowly like turning into one of my favorite cards into the set. Being able to put like a really good card at the top of your life is fantastic. We're not playing in this deck, but like Shirahoshi is really good. Putting Onami's in there, putting Kiko and Nojo when you know that your opponent's at 3 or less life. All of those are just really good, and I think this facilitates it. And then obviously has like the good synergy with the Momo, where you can put it back into your life. So for 7 Dawn, you can put the Hiyori, or you can play it out. You put a card to the top of your life, and then you play Momo, put Hiyori like at the bottom or something, and you healed 1, and you were able to set up a blocker. Like, it's a really good combo. It's just like a little bit clunky to set up sometimes, since we don't have that many Wano cards outright for Momo to take care of. But other than that, just kind of what we've been seeing. Hody Jones is a great finisher. Getting rid of 2 blockers is great. And then also just you're the one who should disappear 200 million volts and reject. Standard like a 2-2-2 split from this I've been seeing pretty often too. So not much more to say, but congratulations to Adrian with their finish with Yamato. All right, next up we have Nicolas with Zoro, and Nicolas's list might look familiar because it is the exact same player and list from the PPG event that I reported on the other day. So being able to get another finish, I think, is fantastic over 2. I didn't really, this was a really surprising list. I have never really seen Revolution Army paired up with Zoro like it is here, but it's looking really interesting. The way that you can, obviously buff up your cards to make the, if you have 7k power or more, a little bit easier is cool. The fact that you're a 5 life leader, and that you can just be aggressive with your 1-drops like your Nami and Betty, just with, the Zoro effect as well. So not a lot of the deck is restricted to Revolution Army. The only things are the on-play for the Karasu, which is... I'm happy it's this way. If it was the other way, this card would be so much more splashable. But then also, I did miss this. The Koala is also just a 2k in this deck. You can't really use the -3, but it is something you can still play off, like the Emporium. Ivankov being able to look top 3, playing a Revolution Army off the top of it, which I think with the ratios that we have, it'd be pretty difficult to not to. There are better targets than others, but I think that's pretty strong for you. And even if you do play the Koala, you are able to just use 1 Dawn on Zoro and 1 Dawn underneath it, and it can be a 5k swing pretty easy. So it's a really interesting build. I think it can be very strong. And then we do have like the Jambe, which you can use on leader to just end game, or like even the Luffy or Zoro. So I think that's strong. But this is the build here, and congratulations to Nicolas for their success back to back with these decks here. Next up, we have Isaiah with Vinsmoke, Reiju, and this is the deck that I really wish I liked just a little bit more. It's been very fun, and honestly, I don't need to like it anymore, but I just need it to be like a tiny bit more viable. It does have a lot of tools for a lot of situations. It does have like a couple matchups that are just inherently just bad because of just how the mechanics work for Reiju, but all in all, it's been a surprisingly strong deck, and I think a lot of people have been having fun with it. This also, I think it's like almost card for card for William Wong's list, who ended up topping the PPG event this last weekend, which is, looks very, very strong. There's not like a lot of diversity that you have with deck building with Reiju, strictly because like the main package of your Vinsmoke cards just take up so much spots for it, right? They take up 8 each. So like for Reiju, Niji, and the Ichiji, you take a 4/4 of each of these just for your consistency for it, and that quickly doesn't leave a lot of room for additional cards for it. So, but I do think like the idea of just adding additional 2Ks, being able to play Kaya for 1 and cycle if you really need to find your Germa 66 or your Germa Kingdom is good, and man, Pudding is such a good card too. It's going to be a little bit stronger in these first couple weeks when people kind of aren't ready to play around it. But then, but right now, like your opponent will have like 7 or 8 cards, especially like yellow players at times. Like in Nell specifically, it gets hit by this card really hard, and you can just kind of win the game from resolution of this. So I think the deck is good. I think it has like a lot of cool, unique properties, which is fun. And hopefully you see more Reiju in the next little bit. But I don't know. We'll just see how it goes from there. But congratulations to Isaiah for their finish there. Next up, we have Perona, which is kind of like at the same boat of Reiju as me. It's in a really good spot, and I do like what the deck does, but it's just not too consistent. And honestly, like this is Shane's playing the list. This is looking pretty similar, if not card for card, for the deck that I've been running for Perona. It's just has a lot of good variety for it. We play like the Baby 5 to help us find like the 10-drop Dofi, but like the Rosinante as well as the Virgo are really good hits, especially since we are playing the brand new, which lets us find cards as well, like the Suru as our Virgo, and also we just have like a good amount of variety for this. Like Borsalino and Kuzan are good cards for this too. And just inherently, like Perona's effect means that you kind of just dominate the early game just because you can rest whatever they play and attack into it. And late game, it just means that like most times, like your opponent has to play 2 blockers for them to be impactful in any way. So the only thing is that like you do have to kind of be in enough control where Don Quixote do Flamingo is worth it. But once you get there, it's in a really good spot. So big fan of Ryuma. I have been thinking about playing stuff like Great Eruption for this deck because you can do something like Great Eruption. Like if they have like a big 6-drop or something, Great Eruption, use the effect to rest it with Perona afterwards because it's going to be costing 4 or less, and then you can just play Ryuma out. So I think that's something I might be looking into. X-Drake also can do a similar thing with it too, and that could be pretty helpful for the deck. But otherwise, I think the deck is in a good spot. I do like what it does, and it just like needs like a little bit consistency-wise. Sometimes you don't find your 10-drop Dofi, and you need to find that at 10 Don, and if you don't, you're just in a bad spot. But looks very strong, and congratulations to Shane for their finish with Perona. And then next up we have the Red-Purple Trafalgar Law. This is from Ryan Miller. And again, this is like the deck that a lot of people are telling me, like, this is the one that, this is the sneak deck of the meta. This is the one that's going to be doing very well. And I do see it a little bit. I think like the fact that we do get the Raise Max, which is just an additional copy of Gordon in the deck, is very strong for us. The addition of the Vinsmoke Reiju is also really good for us too. Being able to just use it to draw 2 cards. We're going to almost always be behind Dawn. And this deck like has like a 90-10 for matchup against Reiju as well, which is very good. But just being able to use this to get the draw 2, I think is in a good spot. Which is really what Trafalgar Law is missing out with in the meantime. Also playing the Yonji, it's just a 6k leader, or 4-drop 6k with a counter, and the fact that it has blocker, so it's fine. It's a good little ad for the deck too. We obviously like playing like the Captain Kidd. I think this is one of the stronger cards for the deck too. If we are able to get to 5 Dawn, being able to just like lose 1 less Dawn every turn is good. We also have this from OP06. So your turn once per turn, you can return Dawn in your field to your Dawn deck. KO up to one of your opponent's characters with cost of 2 or less. So it's just like another way to get like an easy KO on a 2 or less. It's also 2k counter, which is fantastic. So I do think that helps out the deck too. And then just kind of the general stuff. So it's in a good spot. I think it's Red-Purple Law is better than it was in like OP05 format. And I know that there's some cards that are coming out in the expansion booster for it too. But it's probably a little bit better than I've been thinking it is. And I need to probably do some more testing with it as well. So this is Ryan's list, and congratulations for their top 16 finish there. And then lastly, we got 2 more decks. These are, again, they were 5-2 records. So they could have gone in the top 16, but their tiebreakers just weren't there. But this is Kodi's version of Arlong. And I'm a real big fan of Arlong in general. I didn't think it was really good, and then I tried it out in OP03, and there's some really cool synergy. And as Brian, my co-commentator, said, it's a deck that you just keep coming back to because it's whenever there's a new 4-cost or less trigger, you're like, is this a card that this deck can take advantage of? And there's some really good spots where it could be. So obviously it has some like good synergy with Onami, where you can like use Onami to on the attack to play, so it costs like 1 less as technically from that, which is really good. Arlong, the 4-drop, this one's a really nifty card, being able to, one, you can play it off Arlong itself because it does have a trigger, but the fact that you can rest your opponent or stun your opponent's leader is pretty good. Still a big fan of Karubi, of course, and then Kiko Nojo as well. It's just like a great card for our list too. Again, being able to play, have 2 different copies of 4-drop 6Ks that we can play off of our leader, I think is a really, really strong thing. So other than that, we do have like the Chu, we have like the Sanji, Cracker, we have Django, which is great for like being able to attack twice with our leader, or being able to rest one of your opponent's cards. It's a little expensive, and it's there's no counter, but it's good. Hody Jones helps us just win the game in the late game, and then there's also Yamato, so which is really strong. I'm surprised we're not playing 200 million volts because I think that helps us out too, but I digress. I do like it a little bit better than Django at sometimes because this is a little clunky, but I think that's good. We're also playing the Vander deck here, so you have to trash a Fisherman type card, or Noah's Ark, but then you get to KO one of your opponent's rescue, just literally anything. So I think that's kind of good, and we are playing a good amount of Fishermen since we are playing the Karubi, the Arlong, the Chu, and the Hachan, as well as the Hody. So it does, like, it's not like a terrible card just to run a couple copies of, because it can get rid of literally anything with how the effect works, especially because you could use like Karubi on play, like you can attack with Arlong, use Karubi to rest something, and then you can Vander deck in to get rid of it. I think it's a nice little combo there too. So not much more to say. I might have to try some more Arlong, and congratulations to Kodi for their X2 finish. And to wrap it up, we do have Dean's version of Star Deck Uta. Uta, I think, is just going to get slowly stronger throughout the next couple weeks and releases and stuff. With the inclusion of Star Deck 12, though, Dracula Mihawk, as we kind of mentioned earlier, is a really good card. And specifically with Uta, you do get the combo playing Mihawk into Brook into like another 3-cost copy of Nami. So that's like really good resources there, especially since Nami lets you draw a card. So if you have 4 Dawn, you can play Mihawk, Brook into Nami, you get that additional draw, which is really good. Other than that, we are playing like a bit of like a Supernova build without playing the Bonnie, but we do have the 8-drop Kid, which I think is in a good spot against particular decks right now, and the 9-drop Zoro, which I really want to like this card. It's very, very cool for like being able to attack 3 times late game, but it's just like a little bit like if your opponent can answer it, then you just feel like you lost a lot of value for it. But I think it's something that's really strong for the deck, and it can be a really good finisher, especially since like this deck doesn't like generically have a fantastic finisher outright. But we do have like our 2Ks. We're getting more 2Ks that have the film type in the next set too, in EBO1, which is really good. And I do like this. So we are running also additional event cards like the whoever wins this war becomes justice. And I don't know, this deck is strong, right? It's we're a little bit greedy. We're running only 37 cards with film, which means that we're gonna probably miss with Uta like once per game if we use it like 3 or 4 times. But I think it's usually worth it, but you know, it is kind of rough that you have to give up some consistency just for like some like competitive viability at times. So anyways, this is the list here. Congratulations to Dean for their finish. And that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you guys want any of these deck lists, they're here on my website, which is linked in the description. The tournament VOD is also linked there and will be re-uploaded for free on YouTube later this week. And if you've made it this far, you enjoy these videos, and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.